Portraits of the black class throughout the main concourse here. So we're going to go on a little tour. He's going to explain the organization, explain the photos. So before we start, we also have a few special guests. You might see them on the basketball court. First, we have Mr. Jarrett Allen. Clap it up for Jarrett.
Oh my God!
Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. Clap it up.
Why did you let Giannis touch the ball?
We'll ask that later. All right, next up, we have Mr. Spencer Dinwiddie. Clap it up for Spencer. Clap it up. And last but not least, Mr. D'Angelo Russell.
Oh my God!
He's going to say hello. Thanks for coming out to start. Oh, okay.
On behalf of the team and organization, thanks for coming out. Let's get started.
Yeah. So right now we're going to turn over to Claude. The players will mingle with you guys. We'll do a group photo at the end, so don't take any photos as we go.
And you know what?
Hey, so Spencer, how's it feel to be a part of this event?
It's special to be able to participate in Black History, in Black History Month, and to talk to the little kids. It's big, and it just shows you how much things are out there that are bigger than basketball. I think when you bring it to local history, and obviously Black history as well, you talk to the kids, it brings it closer to home. It makes it, I think, a little more realistic, a little more palpable for them. Sometimes when you talk about macro concepts in the whole country, that kind of seems far out or something that doesn't really apply to them. But if you can tell them streets and things that are right down the block, and they can say, "Oh, I walk past that place every day. I had no idea the history behind it." I think it makes it a little more real for them.
African Americans in basketball prior to the NBA, so before 1950, right? So this goes back to the 1900s. And one day I was sitting around and I got a call from the Brooklyn Nets. This was before the Barclays Center was even completed. And they had showed some of my photographs, because I have a lot of collection of artifacts, to a committee. And in that committee was Sean Carter, Jay-Z. Because remember, he was previously a part owner. And he said, "Oh, I love those photos." So one thing led to another. I came down here, I had a construction hat on, we were looking around, and they actually put in 6 of our images that are blown up to full size, almost life size. And each of them has a little bit of history to it. And all of those images are related to Brooklyn somehow, right? So because these players that were part of this history, a lot of them were from Brooklyn, from Fort Greene, from used to be called Stuyvesant Heights, Bedford, now it's Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, different sections, right? Even downtown. So you'll see these photos in here, and you're going to get excited because they live in the same neighborhoods as where you guys are. Where's everybody from? Fort Greene? Bedford, Stuyvesant, Brownsville. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Bushwick, at the corner of Knickerbocker and Gates, was where the very first game between 2 African American basketball teams took place. Yeah. So when you go, you know how there's a fire station right there in the playground? Right there. Yes. So maybe the Nets will put up a plaque over there one day, right? You'll see this team a lot because this was the major team of Brooklyn. It was called the Smart Set Athletic Club. And they named themselves because at the beginning they were a social club. And then they started with other different athletic activities like track and field and of course basketball. So they were actually the first independently formed African American basketball team in history, the Brooklyn Smart Set Athletic Club. And they had lots of players on this team who, in my opinion, in our opinion, could potentially be Basketball Hall of Fame candidates, okay? But this guy in particular, his name was Hudson Oliver. His nickname was Huddy Oliver. And he had 4 different, what they used to call colored basketball World's Championship rings, okay? With 3 different teams. But not only that, he ended up being a physician. And he ended up being a prominent doctor in Harlem for many years, okay, among other things. So when we opened this exhibition, his great-granddaughter was here to help celebrate that. So it was really cool. But this team they had a clubhouse. They had like a little club. It's a social club. So at their clubhouse, they would do readings and plays and skits and recitals, and they would also talk about social causes and social events, and they would really try to break through, because back then, basketball and life in general in America was racially segregated, right? So that meant that there were no places where these athletes could go and compete. There were no clubs that they could join, so they formed their own club. Okay? So that was one of the great breakthroughs. And where did they play? Well, they played at a place called, believe it or not, the Knickerbocker Auditorium, which was it was called the Knickerbocker Courts. It was actually an old handball court. It was indoor. And as I said before, it was at the corner of Knickerbocker and Gates up in Bushwick. And they also played at the 14th Regiment Armory, not far away, for many years. So they were really an accomplished team. They won the first 2 World Championships, or let's call it the Colored Basketball World Championships, 1907-08 and 1908-09. In both seasons, they were undefeated. Yeah. And if you want to read a little bit more, you can have that here, but we're also going to hand out to you the text afterwards, okay? Now this is that same team. Okay, the first that was drafted was a guy named Chuck Cooper by the Boston Celtics. The first to play was a guy named Earl Lloyd. He was with the Washington Capitals, and eventually that team moved and they became the Syracuse Nationals. Then there was another guy who was the first to be signed, and his name was Nat Sweetwater Clifton. He played for the Knicks. Previously, he had played for the Harlem Globetrotters and a team called the New York Rens. So what we do is we just celebrate that history, but we also try to make sure that they get their proper recognition, okay? So, because some of these guys, as I said, they're candidates for the Basketball Hall of Fame. Now, so far, we've been able to get 6 into the Hall of Fame. Not just these guys, but others, because there were dozens of teams, really hundreds of players all around the country. So that's what we do. And by the way, I have 3 sons, and they were all your age once. Right now they're 18, 17, and 13. But I get it, right? Because when I look at you guys, I feel like this is my family right here almost, you know? So that's just how I am on the inside. All right, so you should be also proud and feel grateful that you're in this great facility. How did they select you guys anyway?
Just taking the time, talking about it. So just can you explain like the whole involvement for the Salvation Army in this event?
It means a lot. I feel like with the Salvation Army, you bring kids together. Give them different opportunities that they're not used to seeing. So for them to be able to get the nest together and work as an organization and get this together, it means a lot. It feels good to be a part of it. It gives the kids a chance to be excited, an opportunity to meet new things and show people that reach their dreams and give them, inspire them to reach their dreams. So it feels good.
Perfect. So